Hey everyone, hope you're doing well today. I was coming back from the beach today. I was down there for some much needed beach therapy, playing in the water, so that was nice. But on the way back, I passed one of these, wonderful establishments, which I've thought about making the video before, and I never have, just because it's an odd topic, right? It's not something you're going to see brought up at your Sunday service, I would guess. Um, but I was driving back and I passed by one of these strip clubs. I'm sure you've all heard of them. You know what goes on in them, right? You know what happens in them. And this is after coming back from the beach, right? So at the beach, just to step back for a second, like walking around at the beach, it's almost difficult for me now because I go to the beach and I love the beach. I like to be in nature, right? The birds and the water and the sun and everything and the wind. I love it. And it's great. But unfortunately, like, the way I see things now, right? I'm on the beach and it's hard to even look around because I'm looking around and all I see are like thongs and bikinis and guys with their shirts off and their muscles all pumped up, like, looking tough. Like everyone's being like very prideful and very unholy, just the way they dress, accentuating their ass and boobs and everything else, right? All the other body parts that people look at when they think about sex. So, yeah, it's quite difficult. And then even then, I see people out there with their little kids. They're out there doing like some little surf shop or something, like a surf training maybe it was. And there's like little girls in these little thong bikinis, and it's like, I can't even look at adults in that, like much less children. Like it's too much. So unfortunately, I end up spending a lot of my time looking at the sand and out at the ocean, which is fine. That's why I'm there. So, but going back, so on the way back, I passed by like one of these strip clubs or whatever, one of these like gentlemen's clubs. Trust me, no gentleman goes to a club like that. Yeah, there's no princesses in there and no gentlemen. There's nothing like that. But let me pull this up. So I pulled it up. This is just my town, right? I'm sure, I don't know how similar this is to other places, but you can see like just where I am. I don't know how many that is, 20 or so. I'm not sure. But you can see like this is just in my town, and this is completely legal. And strip clubs are basically just like dens, like full of sin. That's all they are. You know, Sexuality, the nudity. I'm sure there's a lot of like drugs and alcohol and everything else, right? I can't imagine someone's like, I'll say women, right? Because that's I've been to one. I'll admit it right up. I've been to one. I've been to in my life. I've been to two at least, maybe three in my whole life. Two for sure, maybe three. I'm not 100% sure, but handful of times, only a handful. But I have been there, right? So not up here preaching, saying I've never been in one. I have no idea what they're about. I've been in them. It's back when I was drinking. It's back when I was younger, right, in my 20s. So, but yeah, we got this many in the town. So dens of sin, right? You got people in there. I'm assuming the women or men, depending on who's dancing, depending on the establishment. I went to the one where the women were dancing. It wasn't men, but I'm sure those exist too. But you figure there's got to be a lot of like drugs and alcohol and whatever. Just stories I've seen on TV. Like it's a lot of like single parents in there dancing. For whatever reason. That's a whole other discussion. And the kids have to see this, but yeah, they're basically just horrible places, completely unholy. If you're a Christian, you definitely should never ever go to one. You shouldn't work in one. You shouldn't contribute to them in any way. Like, you should have nothing to do with a strip club. There's nothing holy about being in a strip club, period. That should go without saying, and that's why it seems like a funny, silly video to have to make. But then I look at this, right? I think it's a silly video, and then I see like all of these gentlemen's club, right? Gentlemen's club, and that is hilarious that you call it a gentlemen's club. No gentleman is going to go in and watch some girl like prance around and making all kinds of sexual motions and showing off body parts and simulating sex on stage. No gentleman is going to go watch that, either at the club or at home on your computer screen or even in your mind while you're thinking about that kind of stuff. So no gentleman is going to want to see. I'm definitely not pulling up any videos on this topic, but you can see the stupid little pick nails they have over here. It's just gross. But yeah, all of this whack. Blue Angels Gentlemen's Club. Trust me, there are no angels in there. They don't frequent those types of establishments. But you can just see they're all over, right? So you think it's dumb that I should have to make this video, but I mean, it's not. Imagine if, God could see it, of course, right? He sees everything. So yeah, these people work there. There's people that go in there and frequent there. I have been to these places prior to this, but yeah, I went in there like 2 or 3 times in my entire life. And I'll give you one example that I went into. This is the last time I ever went into one. It was down in Daytona, Florida. In case you're not from here. But there was this spot down there. We went down there and we ended up going in. And just to let you know, like not even just this spot. Like every time I'd been in one, even prior to the last year and a half or whatever. But even prior to that, I was never into strip clubs. I never liked them. Never. Like we would go there with my guy friends or whatever. And this is even back when I was drinking. Like they just seemed like the seediest, nastiest places I'd ever been in. Like I didn't want to touch anything. I felt like it was just gonna get like stuff on me, gonna get sick or whatever. Like they just felt nasty. Everyone in there looked seedy. They looked like they wanted to fight you or sell you drugs or something. Like no one in there looked like they had just gotten back from church or were on their way or had read the Bible at all. Currently, at least in that stage in their life. Yeah, they're just rough. So they're just nasty places. The security guards got like this rough appeal to them, I guess, because they're dealing with people that go to strip clubs. So yeah, you're probably not going to find any angels in there if I had to guess. But yeah, they're just nasty places. Like I've never enjoyed them. I know like like when I went to one, I would see people. I know how they work because I went in there a couple times, and like you would see people go up at the cash and like they're like standing up at the rail or whatever, like looking up at the girls, and they're dancing or doing whatever they're doing, and then they're like tucking money in, like clothing parts. Like it's the seediest, nastiest thing I've ever been to, and that's before. That's back when I was normal. That's back before I knew. So even then, like instinctively, I knew that like there's just something wrong with this. I never liked it. I don't think I ever tucked any money in because you call it scared or whatever. Like I didn't want any part of it. I didn't want to be that guy up on that sticky rail with those dirty dollar bills. Just ugh, all of it. It's just nasty. It's just a disgusting place. So I don't even think I ever did anything like that. I was just that guy sitting at the table, like feeling super awkward, like looking around, hoping nobody would talk to me. Like, let me get out of here. Like this place sucks. But yeah, I don't think I ever did anything but like go with my buddies and we would sit at a table and they would go up there and spend money. Like I could never do it. I never felt comfortable in those places ever. But the last time I ever went, the last one I ever went to was down in Daytona. Um, and I won't even name it. It doesn't matter. But we went there and it was late at night. I don't know what time it was. I'm sure it was late. It's back in my younger years. But we got in there and there was hardly anybody in there. Hardly anybody in there. I don't think there was anybody on stage. In fact, there wasn't. There was just we were sitting there, and they brought the one girl in, and I think it had to have been her first night, because she looked as uncomfortable as I did, and that's what made this the most terrible experience of my life in one of these little crap holes that I'll never go back to. But this girl came in. She was young. I mean, I'm sure they check ID and stuff like that. She was probably like low 20s or whatever, but she got up on stage, and I'm telling you, like, I felt uncomfortable. She felt uncomfortable. It was awful. I'll never forget it. She was a little bit overweight. You could tell, she was new just the way that guy was escorting her up there like a piece of meat or a possession or something, like showing her the stage and putting her up there. And I put on a couple pounds here recently because I can't get to the gym. So, but I'll figure it out. I just need to throttle my food intake down. But she gets up there and she's like, I could tell she wasn't comfortable. She was as uncomfortable as I was. And she was like trying to like learn how to dance or whatever. And it's just stuck in my head. She was like dancing around, doing her thing. But she was completely uncomfortable. And the guys that I was with, they were more like, they were used to this type of thing. I guess they went to these places more often than I did because they didn't, they were just like, oh man, come on. They're upset that it's not like some professional dancer doing what they would expect to see in a strip club. But it was the saddest thing I'd ever seen. Like she's up there like defiling herself in front of absolute strangers who don't even appreciate it because she's not as good as some of these other girls are at acting trampy on stage, essentially. So she wasn't as good as like simulating sexual dance or whatever that stuff is in front of people. She was more like me. She was more like a normal person. Like I shouldn't have been there. Like, look, I was there. I shouldn't have been there. But she knew that she shouldn't have been there too. And you could tell by the way she was dancing because she was uncomfortable. Because deep down in her heart, she knew she shouldn't be in a strip club dancing. Because it's a disgusting way to make a living, to be quite honest. And that's not to say, like, if you're dancing, you're a horrible person, you're going to burn in hell. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's a disgusting way to make a living. So you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't be dancing for cash. You shouldn't be a patron of these establishments. You shouldn't be in there spending money and supporting this industry. So, yeah, you shouldn't be watching pornography. You shouldn't be up in the strip clubs working or observing or whatever, right? Running the DJ booth, anything. You shouldn't support these industries. And the fact that these still exist is just, it's sad, but it kind of shows where we are as a society, right? How far we've fallen away from God. That we let this happen because, you keep in mind, these are legal establishments. Like these places over here, these are all legal, You can go to these and people make money and they pay taxes and all that good stuff. But, at least here in the United States, right? Democratic Republic, supposed to be. So it's up to us, right? As citizens, we can talk to our lawmakers. They can make laws to get rid of these places because no one should go there. But honestly, as far as patronage goes, you could shut these places down next week. We don't need Congress. We don't need senators. You don't need, state legislators. You don't need anybody. All you got to do is stop spending your money. Because if you stop spending your money, this map will go blank in about a month. Because these places, as soon as they stop making money from people going in there paying for sin, they'll disappear. It's the same thing with the drug industry, right? Everyone complains about like fentanyl, right? Fentanyl's terrible. It's coming over the border and all this stuff. Yeah, that's true. But guess who's buying it? You are. Somebody is. They're not bringing that stuff over here so that, just to lose money. There wouldn't be a fentanyl industry. There wouldn't be a marijuana industry. There wouldn't be a pain pills industry aside from what's legally prescribed when you really injure yourself for short term. There wouldn't be an industry for any of that stuff. So you don't need to wait for the government to stop it. All you have to do is stop doing drugs. You want them to stop sending over weed over the border? Stop buying it. You want them to stop sending over sex slaves and over the border? Well, stop paying for it. Someone's paying for it. They wouldn't be bringing over sex slaves and drugs and all this stuff unless somebody was consuming it. And that consumer is the United States of America. At least if we're talking about Mexico and they're not transporting it somewhere else once it gets here. It's a whole separate thing. But as far as what's coming over the border right now, it's because you and I are doing all these projects. I'm not anymore, but someone out there is. We could pull up the stats if you want and see how many billions of dollars of this stuff are coming across. But yeah, all you have to do is stop buying it, and then the problem is gone. So it's very easy. You don't have to wait on the government to do anything. Just stop buying it, and then all of it goes away. Because they only do it, the cartels only do it for money as far as the sex trafficking and all the drugs and all that stuff. They do it to make money, right? So they can feed their sins. But you stop buying it, there's no market for it, and just poof, disappears. So that's where we need to get to. But to get back on topic to these places, yeah, they're terrible and they're awful. And I'll never forget that poor girl that got up on stage and how uncomfortable she looked and how uncomfortable she made me. As I was sitting there trying to watch, and then it was so bad I couldn't watch, and I was looking down, and she cured me. This is even before, right? This is before 2023, way before. So I'm much younger, but yeah, she cured me, man. Because I'd always felt uncomfortable in there, and that was either my second or third club in my life. I don't know which it was. I've been at least two that I remember, third maybe. But yeah, I was cured. I felt so bad for her, and it was so sad, and I still can't forget it. It's stuck in my head. But I deserve it because I went. So, sometimes those things get upstairs and you can't get rid of them. But yeah, I just wanted to at least opine on that. I know it's a weird topic, but it needs to be talked about because, when I drive around town, at least in Jacksonville, I see these places. Look how many there are. They're over here. This one's over here in Mayport. That might have been the one I passed. Is that Hannah Park? Yeah, that's the one right there. The Officers Club. Well, if you're in the military, I would certainly hope that you don't have any officers up in this club right here. Because it's disgusting. And it says a lot about the mentality and the ethics of, soldiers that would patronage a place like this. That's all I'm saying. and the respect they have for women. And there's men's clubs too. I don't know if these do men and women. I don't know. I assume it's just women, but I'm not sure. But I'm sure they have men club out there too, right? Where the men are prancing around doing the same thing. So this isn't just for women. But yeah, I passed this one, and that's been there forever. When I was growing up, I remember. I think that's one of the two or three that I've been to. It's definitely this one. It wasn't called that back in the. I don't know what it was called back in the day, but yeah. So hopefully we don't have any officers in the Navy or anywhere else going into these types of establishments because they're disgusting. But it's not just that one, right? They're all over. Look at these, they're all over. So we're never going to get this place to be as close to heaven as we can get it. With places like this still in business, essentially. Like places like this shouldn't be in business because we shouldn't be consuming it, right? We should be trying to be living in God's image, right? As close to holy as we can be while still here on earth. So to get there, we're going to have to change the way we think and the way we operate. And some of it's like drastic. You wouldn't even imagine it. Like I can't even walk down a beach, like I said, because these girls, and it's totally culturally acceptable. I've lived here my whole life and I know how people dress at the beach, at least in the United States. It's obviously different around the world. But you have girls walking around with just like an ounce of clothing on, just like thongs, right? Just like sucked to their body and like, showing off everything. And it's so unholy I can't even look at it because you look up and it's like all they're doing is just advertising sex. Like basically just advertising their bodies as objects, just sexual objects. So it's hard to even go to the beach, to see that. But it's a cultural thing. Culture is very difficult to change. And trying to live in God's image is extremely difficult because it's nothing like this place. Nothing. Like a heavenly realm is nothing like it is here. Which is why this is a fallen world. Like, why would it be the same? And that's why it seems so weird to people to live like that. Like, what do you mean I shouldn't wear a thong and I shouldn't push my breasts up or I shouldn't be a guy and I shouldn't work out and get super prideful and walk around, bowed up around the beach? Like, it's completely different, That's why we're here, right? To learn. So hopefully we figure it out. But things definitely need to change. That's for sure. Because I know, like, God's expectations of us, me, you, all of us, would not be to look at this map and see all of these strip clubs all over town, which means that people are going to them, right? There are lost souls working in here, walking up in here, doing all this, and I don't care that someone's paying their way through college. Like, this is an absolute den of sin. There is nothing good about a strip club. There's no good excuse to work at one, to be a patron of one, to go to one. Like, you're certainly not a gentleman, and you're certainly not an officer. You shouldn't be, because it's gross. So, hopefully as we clean up society and we try to live as close to God's expectations as we can, right? This is way off the mark. This is a big miss right here. So we'll need to fix all this. And everyone has things they can clean up in their life, right? No one's perfect yet. We're all working. It's all a journey. But this is so far off the mark, it's hard not to talk about. And like I said, you walk in there, they probably have gambling. They're probably selling lotto tickets in there. Women and men are dancing around at almost nothing, trying to get people aroused. Those people they're trying to arouse probably have girlfriends, boyfriends, wives, husbands, whatever the case may be. Alcohol, drugs, everything. I don't know how many of these people, like what percentage of those people are married. What percent are happily married? Probably zero, because they're working there or they're going there. So the happily married folks, it's probably 0%. They go to these establishments. But I would say even the married percentage is probably low. If you're frequenting a strip club or you're working there, I would guess the marriage rates there are pretty low. Especially happily married. I don't think there's any of those there. Otherwise, why would you be at a strip club? Right? And then, like, that's a good point. Like, some people, I don't know if this really happens. Maybe it's just a trope. I'm not sure. But, like, people, like bachelor parties or whatever, like, want to go to a strip club. You better not marry them. Like, that's a horrible way to start off a marriage. You're basically cheating in your mind like the day before you get married or the week before, whatever the case may be. It's crazy. This place is something else. But yeah, I just wanted to provide my input on that. So if you know anyone that's going to these or working there or has anything to do with a strip club, By all means, let them know it's absolutely unholy and you shouldn't be involved in these types of establishments. So hopefully, in some amount of time, we can go check this map again, and all these places will be out of business because they're unholy and they should be. But that's my 2 cents. So just remember, God loves us and wants to provide guidance so that we can be the very best versions of ourselves. So we can save, all of us, our souls, the animals, the planet, everything. This is like the biggest Trinity rescue mission you've ever seen. And we're all getting started, and you're all part of it. So let's all do our part and get on the train. But that's it. Have a great week.